Welcome back. And this time it's going to be the second module and the most important one, which is the main part of this entire course, is how you animate a car and how you set up given that we have a car, how you turn it into control rig inside Unreal, and how you set up ready for animation and cinematic visualizations. So for this one, I have actually prepared this car, which actually came with one of my projects that I worked before, and I'm very happy to share it for free. Um, some of these modifications were done most of it by me, and also that most of the model was actually provided by me as well at the same time. So the entire car will come with the project. As for anyone who wants to use this for this exercise, which I will actually use this for entire exercise, is feel free to use it and do it, and also work on it while we are doing the tutorial together. But also, if you want to have for your personal project, I'm very happy to share that with you. But for now, I want to present the idea behind how you set up the car in the first place so that it is ready for Unreal use. As you may see on the right hand side, the car has been sort of divided into sections. So you got the main body, you got calipers, so each calipers are placed on each wheel as it should be. As you may notice, I might have called them with these prefixes FL, FR, RL, and RR. What basically stands for front left, front right, right left, and rear right. So basically this one goes at the back, those goes on the front, but each on the different direction. Another thing is I did the same for the wheels. Also, one thing you should definitely be very mindful about this is when you have a new car, let's say from the Sketchfab. So in this case, I have actually taken one from Sketchfab. This is just like a dummy example that I'm going to show you how you can also do to prep your car. Make sure your car is not all over the place. In other words, most of these cars that comes from Sketchfab might have defects like the car parts are being sort of separate from the car. So you need to particularly in this case, be very mindful about to be very careful with how you select each part of the mesh. So in other words, when you select all these parts of the meshes, you need to make sure you select all of them, and you also have to combine into one single mesh. So in this case, what I'm actually doing is actually selecting each model. So I'm holding shift and using my left mouse control. By selecting all together, I'm holding shift, and let's say I wanted to group them into one body. In other words, I want to combine into one mesh. I simply press Ctrl J, and there you go. That comes as one mesh. So when you have those situations like that, make sure this entire model becomes as one body, and do the same thing for the wheels as well. So coming back to our example here, this is the idea I actually use for this particular example. Another thing I would definitely suggest is every time you create these parts or combine these meshes together, you're gonna have to go and name them particularly just like it is here as given on this hierarchy list on the right hand side. But as you may notice here at the moment, my pivots axes are being sort of placed right in the middle. So in this case, it's very important to go and fix this, because once we export this entire car, the model will be then converted to skeletal mesh inside Unreal, and basically this origin of your model's axis would treat as it's the position where the bond is going to be created. And that's wrong, because once you have this kind of position for the bond, what's going to happen? Your model will be behaving this like I just presented now inside Unreal. That's not what we want. Basically, we want to make sure the pivot points are set right where it should be on the right axis where the wheel is supposed to be. So to fix this, what I tend to do, I'm actually, just for this example, I'm taking this out here. So let me just go back, close this for now. I'm going to take this out. Let me do this again. So I'll show you how to do this. So I'll take this out. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and set my options to set to origin. So what's going to happen now, I can change my origins of the pivot here and do it without me moving the model. But because I can do this manually, but I'm not sure where I'm supposed to place this in, but it's wrong, because as you may go to my wireframe here, the viewport, the point position of this particular wheel, it should be right somewhere in the middle to match the positions of the wheel's rotation. So in this case, what I need to do is to make sure I match them in the right place. And there's actually one hack to actually solve this. So if you wanted to actually make this pivot snapped into the position where it should be, let's say here in the middle, you can go here and make sure you set this to vertex and also click on this little magnet here. So what's going to happen, every time you move your pivot, it will snap automatically. So in this case, it snaps right in the position where it should be. So that's perfect. And I can now go and close this, and I can just go back and move it back to where it should be. And we're gonna do the same thing for our caliper. So let's bring this actual wheel back in, and I'm gonna move this caliper closer to the wheel here. So let me just turn off the snapping thing. So I'm gonna, as you can see, the pivot is way far away from that. So we wanna make sure our calipers is actually located right in the middle. So when we animate it, it moves and the same axis as the wheel rotates. And so in this case, what I'm gonna do is also do just like we showed. So let me just place it properly so it matches the position. So I'm going back to my origin. I'm going to the snapping here bit of the tool here of the magnet, and I'm gonna literally snap in the same position where the wheel should be. So that's the place where it should be. So now I'm very happy with this. So that's basically what we need to do. So I'm gonna turn this off, turn this as well. So now with my wheel as well as caliper selected, I can bring it back in. There you go. And I can set this to 0, 0. And of course you see these transformations being reset, but that's fine because at least we know that our pivot's position has changed, and that's what we care the most. So in this case, I'm going now to do the same thing for other ones. So let's go back. Yeah, this should be okay. So let me go to a snapping position and set the origin effect only. So now if I get closer, it should snap right in the position. And to view it, it should be right in the middle. It should be just like it's shown this viewport. And the same goes for my caliper, which is placed here. So let me just turn this off for now. We don't need that. I'm gonna move this slightly. Should be as it matches originally. I'm going back to my origins. I'm going to go to the snapping tool once again, and I'm going to do the same thing right there. It's just like I'm snapping into that position, which should be right in the middle. Perfect. So I'm gonna go back again, turn this off, and you can then the same repeat for the other wheels on the other side too. So let me just do it. I move this here. Let me just turn this. Okay, so let me just go. Okay, let me click on this too, move this here. So let's see what happens now. I'm going to do the same trick just like we did in the previous ones. Find my location pivot, snap it into middle. Let's do the same thing right here. So there you go. And I'm turn this off, and I'm going to also turn up my origin, bring it back in. Make sure it right fits into the position. It should be I think okay. That's perfect. Another one, which is the remaining part of the cars with the rear back of the wheel. Bring it in, and let's do the same thing for that one. And I'm gonna bring my pivot right there, snap it in. Turn this off. There you go. Okay, awesome. So now car is ready to work with. But there's one thing missing. We also want to make sure when we import a car's model, we want to at the same time move and rotate it, the entire bodies, depending and how suspension is going to pick up while it moves on the uneven surface or anything like that. We can do also these animations. So to do this, we need to also assign this as our root, so this body becomes unaffected and it doesn't then going to be, in this case, associated as a root, because this would be as a separate body. So in this case, what I tend to do is a little trick is I'm actually adding usually a mesh on top of it. So in this case, I'm going to, of course, minimize this. I'm not going to set it to something 0.01. And there's actually a thing what I tend to do is to make it completely disappear. I set it usually to 0. And I'm going to also apply its scale. So in this case, I'm going to apply all-out transform. So and that means it will set back to 1, but make the cube will no longer reappear. So basically, we'll always be at 0, 0, 0 scale, knowing the transform sets to 1. So that's good, because this is something I want to make sure it's not appearing on the later on when we try to rig the car and the cube is no longer be there as well. So in this case, I'm gonna do is to go and then I will definitely rename that. And now the most exciting part is to, with all these selected, I'm going to also click the last one, the root. So I'm gonna actually do this one by one. So I'm gonna first select the body, then select the root, and then make sure you are selected in the viewport here with your mouse. Press Ctrl P, and when you start to parent it, make sure all transforms are being kept. If you don't keep the transform, otherwise your model kind of be not just rescale, but the transformation, it will mess up your transformations, and we're trying to avoid it. So in this case, what I'm going to do is to set it to keep the object transformation. There you go. So now, as you can see, my body is right there. So I'm going to basically move them here. So I'm going to actually first do the same thing with all the rest of things. So I'm going to select all of them. And lastly, I'm going to select the root, and I'm Control P, and I'm just going to keep transformations. There you go. Just to make sure everything's perfect. Okay, that's good. And the last thing is to also work with, in this case, the wheels as well as calipers. So each caliper needs to be attached to each wheel. Of course, it needs to be corresponding to the naming convention. So in this case, go FL and matches FL here as well. So I'm gonna click on this, click on that, Control P, and I'm gonna go keep transformation. Repeat the same process for the other ones. Okay, awesome. So we got a car being ready to deploy. In this case, we're gonna go and get this entire car ready to export it. So in this case, what I'm actually going to do is to select entire car, go to File, Export. So this part is very important because this is where we need to be very mindful of how we export it. So in this case, always make sure where the car is positioned, because as you can see, the car is placed forward at axis X. The way you can see the positions of how the location of cars is you just, if you look on the right top corner here, that says it's where it should be aiming at X forward, as at top as well as Y on the side. So in this case, we keep that information, especially when we try to export it. So in this case, what we'll do is to keep at that axis, just like it should be. And in this case, that means we need to also identify this within this settings here. So for this one, I already prepare unreal presets, but I'm gonna work this with you. So we're only using object types of mesh. Another thing is make sure you set forward to X forward. The same goes for the position of working at Z up. Another thing I would definitely here is to just basically ignore this geometry, because this would not really affect it. Armature's position, leave it as it is, and make sure you deselect animation, because we don't need any more animations. We're not picking anything. So name the way you want to. So in this case, I'm gonna call it Porsche Unreal underscore GTR free, or just call it Porsche GTR free. Let's go Unreal. And there you go. And once it's exported, so now we can come back to our main project where we've been working on. So in this case, I'm gonna do is go to maps, and I'm gonna create a new map. So in this case, just go on the top, file level, new level, and call create basic. Let's just create a new level map. So in this case, we're gonna call it L underscore car rig. Right click, create a new folder on our models folder. I call it car Porsche. Let's say car, and then right click into our car, folder here, and then go import. And of course my cars has been placed where it should be in my folder. Let's go import this, and we'll show you with the information that's needed for the import options. And in this case we are going to select the skeleton meshes because we want to convert. So now, as you may notice, our car go right into Unreal, and we go export it. So if you drag it down here, your car literally is now placed as should be. And also, let's do a very quick inspection to see what the skeleton looks like. So if I double click on our skeleton mesh, now you should see the structure of the model itself. So we go body. This is what we're going to be moving. Of course, we have wheels, and don't worry about the calipers because calipers will be then later separated inside a control rig system. And we'll make sure that our calipers are staying in one place. It's not rotating, only will be rotating on that axis here. With it all set up, we can let's right click very quickly and then convert our skeleton mesh into a control rig. So now we go control rig, double click, and there you go. So now we have a car ready for control rig and rigging the entire skeleton of the car. And we were going to do this in the next lesson. I hope this lesson was very valuable, and thank you guys so much, and see you guys in the next part of the lesson.